Well, hello. My name is Steve Cully, the best podcast host in the universe. I apologize. We had technical difficulties because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. With us, a very, very special guest, Billy the Liquor Guy. He is a best-selling author, and he is going to have a movie made about him. It's in the works. They're talking about production right now. Very excited about it. Very excited to have him on this special episode. We also have the voice of reason himself, Frank Christian.
Yes. Hey, didn't they already make a movie about Billy? Wasn't it Boogie Nights?
Yes, it
I
was.
thought it was Boogie Nights.
Was that your real penis?
No, it was too heavy. You couldn't see
Oh,
it.
it's too bad. And then we also have the coach himself. Coach,
Yes.
again, I apologize for the technical difficulties. Thank you for patient. I still don't know how you do it.
All right.
All right.
Steve.
All right. Let's go, Steve. Steve-O.
Steve, are you broadcasting? Is he broadcasting from the firehouse? Where'd that
Is that a
background come from?
I'm in prison.
Oh, I got you.
I'm behind a brick wall. So Billy, I wanted to start. I was going through your book and I read a lot of the stuff online about you. Growing up, what really drew you to a career in law enforcement? What was the draw?
Actually, I wanted a career in criminal. My grandfather was in the mafia, and I had a lot of cousins and uncles that were in police, but I always had a little bit of that interest in the criminal life. But I never really wanted to be a cop. That sounds crazy because I had some of my family, and being my grandfather who lived with us, I grew up with him, and I learned a lot about him, about the mafia life. And there was one in Utica. My grandfather was a soldier for Joe Falcone when he was the capo or the don, whatever they want to say. But I was always just a little different. That's the best way to say it. I always liked to be involved in something that had a little bit of excitement to it. And I never could see myself wearing a uniform as a cop. But as I got older and saw a lot of my cousins coming in and out of jail, and including my grandfather, who did a couple federal bids, 2-year terms. He said he went to Penn State, but actually it was State Penn. And then he was on the Georgia chain gang. So once he started talking to me about that wasn't the life for me. So I just got into the investigative field. First, the civil investigator, which is one where you're not really a police officer. You handle, boring stuff. I got bored with that, and next thing I knew, I took the test and I qualified for some state investigative jobs. And then make it real short, my home office was in the World Trade Center. When the towers went down, I went on a different type of mission and put all my knowledge working that I learned growing up on Bleecker Street, which was referred to in the book as the Boulevard of Broken Dreams. And with my grandfather's knowledge, I became an undercover agent and was one of the few things I was very good at.
Now, how long did it actually take for you to train to become an undercover agent?
Well, I had about 15, 20 years in just doing, I was working in New York City. I worked for the Petroleum Alcohol Tobacco Bureau, and it was quite exciting because there's a lot of criminal activity. There's a lot of gangs involved because there's a lot of smuggling is what it was. There's Chinese gangs, Russian gangs, Jamaican gangs, and I kind of handled myself on that pretty well. And then I had quite the reputation, although I was not one to follow orders too much. I was known as unsupervisable on my, whatever they call those things.
The reports, they're like
annual
reviews.
Yeah, thank you.
Right.
And they said, great investigator, great street guy, but has no respect for authority. And not to be a horse's ass, but I had people who never really worked on the street telling me what to do. And I was, I had the best teacher in the world. My grandfather was in the mafia, so it was kind of hard to hear stuff from people that go to academies and they come out and they work on the street and they write tickets or do little investigations. I'm going, because in fact, when the towers went down and all my bosses were killed, we had a new boss come in after a few months, and I was invited to New York City. I thought I was getting fired because the other boss I had then was pretty good with me. He let me do what I wanted to do. So, anyways, he goes, "Look, I saw your folder. You got a pretty interesting career." He goes, "But you got no respect for authority." I go, "I'm not going to lie to you, boss. I don't. I be with their idiots. I can't listen to them." He goes, "Well, that's good. I feel the same way." So anyways, he just said, "Listen, we're thinking about sending you undercover school after the towers went down, because all state agencies, federal agencies all throughout the state were sending people to the undercover school." And he goes, "I think you'd be a good candidate." And he happened to own a bar too before I went to law enforcement. And he just wanted to know what I did in the bar. And I gave him some bullshit. "Well, we did this and we did that." He said, "No, I want to know what the fuck you did illegal in the bars so you'd make a good undercover agent." Now, I don't know this guy from Adam. So I'm saying, well, I heard this, I heard that, so I just didn't know what to, but he did quiz me pretty good. And I said, stuff falls off the trucks. You have 2 cash registers. You do whatever you can do to get stock in that's not recorded by the state. So we, first day undercover school, instructor walking around, there's 40 guys in there, 39 of them look like cops right there. They're not in uniform, but they got the little brothers t-shirts on. They've got their muscles flexing. I'm the old fat guy in the room, and I'm dressed like a fucking slob. I just got off the streets of New York City. I got wind pants on. I got sneakers untied. I got a dirty t-shirt, and my hair is all over the place. The instructor walks around. He goes, I figure, he's going to break my balls. He goes, "Did you think about what you're going to wear today, or did you just pick it off the floor?" He goes, "No, actually, your mother dressed me after I got done fucking her last night. So I'm going with this look." And I thought I was ready to pick up my shit. He goes, "There's an undercover. Quick response, quick wit." In fact, the guy behind me looked like GQ for the troopers, And he goes, "Oh, what are you supposed to look like, a slob?" He goes, "No, you look like him, you're going to get a job done. You look like you're going to get shot." So the way the liquor guy was born from undercover school, and they sent me out there to break the law, show what I can do, and get involved with all sorts of bad guys.
And did you join right out of high school? Did you go right
No.
into it?
No, sir. I did a little bit of coaching. I went to college. I went to Bus State. I did a little bit of wrestling there. I did some wrestling at MV. And when I got out, I was driving a garbage truck because I wasn't, college was okay. I did graduate, but I actually enjoyed driving a garbage truck. It was a great workout, and you didn't have any of this automated stuff. But after a couple of years, my dad said, "Are you going to drive a garbage truck the rest of your life?" So long story short, I took a civil service test at the county, and I became a county investigator. Did that for 10 years, and then I went on to bigger and better things. That's when I got involved in New York State. I was a New York State criminal investigator, which my agency again was the Petroleum, Alcohol, Tobacco Bureau, which we deal with all the illegal activity with petroleum, alcohol, and tobacco. So I became a real cop in 10 years of civil investigator, 75, from 85 on. I became a law enforcement officer.
So let me ask you, what's the difference between a petroleum, tobacco, and the ATF? Was this alcohol, tobacco? Just petroleum and alcohol, or the?
No, it's actually their ATF is alcohol, tobacco, and firearms.
Right.
But they're feds, and I didn't get along with too many federal agencies because on the state level, plus you can bend the rules a lot more. Plus ATF, we used to call after the fact. They are the federal agency.
They show up late.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And they don't want anything to do, but there was so much criminal activity with petroleum and with tobacco, because a lot of people don't notice either. There's such multi-millions can be made in smuggling cigarettes, mainly from down in the southern states, which don't have taxes.
Millions?
Yeah. And North Carolina, Virginia. In fact, the towers and all the terrorist activity around them was all funded by illegal cigarettes, not guns, not drugs, it was because it's such a low crime, and the profit margin was like, if you smuggle a tractor trailer with cigarettes, you're looking at a couple $1 million.
Right. Hey, listen, the Indians aren't stupid.
No.
I mean, bottom line, they're selling cigarettes on every reservation because there's no tax involved.
Yeah.
Coach Schumann, do you think you could an undercover agent? Do you think you could have kept a straight face? Do you think you would have been a badass? Do you think you could have pulled off these missions, driving back and forth to Canada, load the cigarettes and booze?
Did he do it?
I'm sorry. Could I have done it?
Yes.
Well, listen. I mean, what he did is it's an incredibly taxing thing being undercover, and I don't know that that's meant for everybody. I mean, there's special skill sets that are required to do that. First of all, the want to and desire to go undercover and to be able to expose certain things, it's to be commended, because it's a very, very difficult task. And just hearing and having worked obviously in New York City, because I worked for a tech company at the time, and then the towers came down on September 11th. One of my big clients was Cantor Fitzgerald on the 100, and I think it was the 108th. Yeah. So the 105th floor, and they were most of that company was wiped out. You know what I mean? So so I could understand what it's like to be working in a certain capacity, and that part have to change and adapt. I mean, it's amazing what you did, Billy. Really, obviously going into law enforcement, special investigations, leading up to 9/11, then going into the stuff with the U.S. Marshals, and when Andrew Cuomo really kind of got wind of your skill sets and started giving you obviously the stuff with the cigarettes what I'm curious about is the because having grown up, having members of the family and being around people growing up in New York City that were in the mafia, and then being able to investigate a lot of different crimes in different areas, and even obviously your skill sets driving a garbage truck, right, and understand how that business works, right? What was a lot of the ties? Yeah, exactly. So what was a lot of the ties that that you had growing up that really you thought really helped you tremendously in being undercover, that you could really because everybody knows the movie Donnie Brasco, right? And your story coming out, and
by the way, he was a pussy. The guy that played him.
There you go.
I talked to him. I'm not to interrupt you, but I did a podcast for the UK. And the guy tried to throw me off. It was one of my first ones, so I was a novice. And he goes, "Well, listen, some of the stuff you did is kind of unbelievable." He says, but you're a Gemini. So he goes, he started asking me some things, and he goes, "Oh, by the way," his words, I'm starting a podcast, and I'm doing the 5 best undercovers I've ever heard about." And he said, I did Donnie Brasco, Joe Pistone, who played him, which people know now, so I can say his name. And I just said, I go, "He's a pussy." I go, "What? Did he, he made like he did some shit. They robbed a few things. He drank coffee and anisette with fucking Italians. I did that since I was 14. I said, "Did he buy guns? No. Did he buy drugs? No. Did he buy a bomb? No." I said, and in fact, I know I talked to Joe Pistone. He was pissed. Some of the stuff in the movie, which he got pissed about, was not true. Like he hit his wife, which he was primarily against, but they never cut up a body or anything like that. So it's Hollywood, So
right.
I did not mean to interrupt you, but my skill set was I was a bullshitter from day. I always was able to talk my way out of situations. I was able to, like they said, how I got hooked up with Andrew Cuomo was I was selling some liquor to a biker gang bar in Elmira. And then I said, "Hey, I can't keep coming down there for just this one fucking bar," even though they were good customers, I said, "You got anybody else?" He goes, "Well," he gave me a low life bar, Softail, which is the name of a motorcycle, which I found out after, but it was just a small time sale. In fact, you ever saw the movie Elephant Man? The guy that owned the bar looked just like him. So, I mean, I couldn't even fucking look at him. He just was coked out and he just looked like a freak. But anyways, unbeknownst to me, I'm in the parking lot leaving. This guy's breaking my balls. I said, "Listen, I'm not staying here for 3-4 bottles." I said, "You don't look like you can't even pay for that." So anyways, we walk out to the parking lot. All of a sudden, I got these 3 Jamaican gentlemen walking up to the van, which I got filled. And I was an enterprising Jamaican, yeah. So turned out they actually owned the bar. This guy was just a front. So then they start, my partner goes, hey, I think we're going to get robbed. I said, well, we can't go, we can't give up our undercover. So I just, they said, hey guys, I said, what do you got there? I go, what do you need? They said, this. I said, listen, I get you anything you want, which I did. Through my contacts, I didn't just have liquor or cigarettes. I had cashmere sweaters. I had Louis Vuitton shit. I had, I went the extra yard to have all stuff to bring interest. I had jewelry, real stuff, fake stuff.
You really got it.
I can back it almost right now that the agency called the DEA used to be called the DEI until Billy had to start coordinating with them, and they got rid of DEI right away, and they went right to DEA. There's no DEI with Billy right now. I can see right off the bat.
But I have a question, because you said you met someone named the Elephant Man, and I always thought the Elephant Man was named that way because he had a massive penis. Is that not true?
I would not know that. Buckley might, but I did not know that. I had no idea. But no, this guy was a freak. But anyways, the Jamaicans come and I said, I befriended them. But no, the Elephant Man was the movie with Cher and I think Sam Elliott, where the kid was
deformed in the face.
Oh my! And this guy could have passed as his twin. I swear to God, I don't. I said I couldn't look at him. But anyways. I started talking to these Jamaicans. I gave him a couple cartons of cigarettes, a couple bottles. I knew what certain type of ethnicities drink, not to get off that path. But so I gave him a couple bottles. Next time you knew, we're best friends. We're doing a couple shots, and in the parking lot. And my boss doesn't know about a lot of this shit, but statute of limitations are way gone. So I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So anyways, we.
And my dad's your lawyer, so you're all set.
Oh, he's the best. He is the best. In fact, I got a story for you once we get off the air. I don't want to embarrass him.
No. Embarrass him. It's great. Love him.
Oh, okay. First of all, I did not know the Attorney General's Narcotics Task Force is watching this bar. And here I come out, old heavyset guy. I'm like, we're best friends with these guys. In fact, I'm even doing the J-Lo act about, I said, they asked me if I wanted the girls because they had women in there. I said, no, I like the girls with the nice ass. We can put the drink on their ass and fuck them, So I kind of got right in with them. So anyways, unbeknownst to me, the State Narcotics Task Force is filming all this. They're in some vans and shit. And they're going, about 3:00 in the morning after I joke with these guys, my boss calls me. I'm down in a hotel in Elmira. He goes, were you at a low-light fucking bar today? And you met some Jamaicans? I go, yeah, I did. He goes, well, I got a call from the Attorney General's office. Andrew Cuomo. Yeah, Andrew Cuomo. And he goes, we got to be in his office at 10 in the morning.
Oh,
boss. I go, fuck, boss. I've been working 20 hours at 3 in the morning. He goes, I know you're stupid. He's, now are you deaf? He says, you got to come up. So I show up at the office. Andrew's beautiful office, mahogany desk, all this shit. And I got my wind pants on, my sneakers are untied, and my hair is unkept. And my boss goes, who's not it? He goes, seriously? I said, what the fuck you want me to do? You said come up, I came up. I don't have a suit and tie when I'm working undercover.
Yeah, so, Cuomo's got girls coming up every 10 minutes. So
Andrew Cuomo wanted the fat ass girl that he could fuck as well. So that's kind of where Billy, the connection had to be. I'm just guessing right now.
Well, I did in my agency. I was known as a social director. I kind of set up parties and stuff.
Really? Oh, you had the booze. Right there. That's half the battle. Yeah.
So, anyways, he walks in. He's a cool guy. We're sitting there there was more fucking brass and gold stars and everything sitting there, all their puffed out chests. And there's this slumped over heavyset guy. And he goes, is this what my top notch state?
This is what he looks like.
Yeah, he goes, this is what they're up against. And he goes, how do you do it? I go, sir, tell you the truth, that's who I am. But he goes, no. Anyways, we hit it off. He said, you're working for me now, and then like from the stuff he gave me, I drove around Escalades, at most drug seized vehicles, SUVs, BMWs and stuff. That was my lifestyle. So I kind of adjusted to that pretty good. So I think the guy next to me, I didn't know I had so many Italians in New Hartford.
Well, let me lead you on this one right now. This is going to be tight and relate to your early part of your conversation here.
Right.
You mentioned the name Joe Falcone.
Yes.
So I grew up in Joe Falcone's living room
Are you?
as a little boy, as a 2, 3, and 4 year old.
Okay.
So my father came over from Italy in 1961,
Okay.
and one of his relatives in Italy made a call to Joe Falcone in Utica. Now, Joe, you got to understand Joe Falcone. Joe Falcone basically controlled all the trafficking from the city to Canada and Canada back to the city.
Yes, you did.
So anything that had to pass through had to get through his approval. And so when my father came over and with Joe's help, got his first job, which was at the Florentine pastry shop back in 1961.
Oh,
And my father ended up being a driver for Joe Falcone to different events. And luckily, and my father told me this, luckily, persuaded not to follow the life of crime that most of the people that he was associated with ended up being. So he slowly slid out of doing that and ended up, going into work and opening up his own shops and all that. So that's how he ended up getting out of that. But yeah, that name Joe Falcone resonates with me just because that's where I was as a young child in his house, basically.
I know my grandfather actually drove.
Dave, how do you
Yep.
think it is for people to be right on the edge where you can take one step and you'll be in the life of crime, or the next step and you'll have just a regular life with a son, a wife, and a dog named Bo?
I know, Steve, it's all luck of the draw. In fact, I got really close to my targets, or I don't call them targets. They were my people I got close with. I tell you the truth, I like them more than a lot of the people I work with. Again, you brought up a good point. These people are real. But they are 13, 14 years old on their own on the streets of New York City. And they didn't grow up in New Hartford, New York. So they do, or Whitesboro or whatever. You do what you had to do to survive. In fact, I had a couple, more than my share of assholes, tell me I was getting too close to to my targets. Okay. Because my Double J in the book, who I bought drugs from him, guns, some even motorcycles, which I didn't do nothing about, but he was short story. My parents were in the hospital with serious health problems. They've since passed, but during that time, I told most of the agents I worked with, some of my close friends that I mentioned in the book, I told him, I said, dude, I'm not going to be around for a while. My parents are pretty sick in the hospital. He was okay. Now, and I had my own undercover phone, which, he's the only fucker that ever called. And then to ask how my parents were doing, not the agents I worked with, or I'll say the vets and stuff.
God.
Yeah. And in fact, I actually felt pretty emotional after people telling me I'm getting too close. I said, why do you think I'm so fucking deep? I went to this guy's daughter's christening. I went to his nephew's funeral who got killed in a gang fight. And I was walked in there, and we're in Elmira, New York, and I'm the only white person at the fucking funeral, right? And he just introduced me to everybody he's my brother from another mother. But again, he called me on my phone when they firebombed his house to do the takedown. He wouldn't come out. And he called me though, goes, listen, big dog, or he said, big dog, don't come down here to arresting anybody. Well, you know what? I brought tears in my eyes because this guy, he had my back a couple times when I got in tough situations, or he was there to, take care of people that were threatening me.
So do they all know in the end, once they've been apprehended, that you were the guy?
Yeah.
Eventually they figure it out, right?
Well, actually, again, going with JJ, Double J, one of the people from the attorney, I told the other troopers interviewing him, I said, listen, show them respect. In fact, I've heard from a couple people say it was all business.
Right.
But some are still, they've since passed, but when JJ, he said, I told him, listen, treat the guy with respect. He's a hardcore, you're not going to break him, but show him respect. Anyways, the troopers are doing a nice job interrogating them. Well, this asshole from the Attorney General's office, and it wasn't known yet because they didn't know, because I always got arrested with these guys. I went to jail, so we were trying to figure out who the fucking rat was. In fact, I made a mention a couple of people. I went to mafia shit. I go, I'm going to kill you motherfuckers, because I know it wasn't me, so I know it was you. Fucking someone talked. They were like, someone were actually shitting their pants. But anyways, this Attorney General investigator who really wasn't, he was their tech guy. He had all this bullshit. He wired all these houses and stuff. And he goes, He goes, you think you're so fucking tough. He goes, that fucking friend of yours that he was the undercover agent who sold all the shit to. Well, the troopers, two were like 6'5", 6'6", they escorted him out because he gave me up. And which is, you just never do that. Because eventually, sometimes a lot of people never found out because I just disappeared. You know?
And go back in the field again. Right.
I mean, eventually I had to retire. But I was undercover till about 6 months before I retired because it just, I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't do anything. Because like you see in the movies, like people always ask me, I go, there's no fucking way these guys work their day jobs as cops or street investigators, you know?
Right.
Because whether you're in New York City, no matter how big it is, the criminal element in certain areas I worked is very small. So, I mean, I had to go to jail. Yes, I spent some time in jail. But you know, and then eventually you disappeared because even sometimes before the first night's over, about 3-4 guys are blowing each other in.
Right. Sure. They're trying to make deals. Now, so let me ask you what I think is the most important question right now. How long is JJ being put away for? Because it doesn't sound like we want him back out at all to try to dig you up as a brother from another mother, and then all of a sudden.
Well, actually, he's last I heard, he did 12 years, and he is out.
He's out.
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
But they have a little, because I worked undercover and a lot of things happen. Anytime anybody runs, I still have my undercover phone, which no one calls me anymore, but
Right.
I get a heads up when these guys are getting out. And I also get a heads up if, whoa, sorry about that. I get a heads up if someone tried, even so there's a few dirty cops around.
Sure there are.
So once in a while, twice my plate was ran by cops or law enforcement. And there's a red flag that goes up. So, you know, they're still the check on it. Who's running your plate or for why. But both times it was just a misunderstanding. I can't even blame my son for that.
Right.
The family car was parked at Sanger Town Square at 3 a.m.
Jeez.
And I get a call and I go, she's probably shopping. He goes, Senior, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Oh, okay. I guess she's not shopping. But things happen.
Do you feel that at all? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say how hard was it to separate the relationships that you were developing from obviously what your task was, especially as you got closer with the people that you were going after, and was there times when it was just like you almost had to like check yourself to say, oh my, I have a job to do here, like. Talk about that a little bit because that has to be incredibly difficult.
It was. Well, first of all, like because of my criminal leanings, I became Billy the Liquor Guy after a couple of years. I mean, I lived the life of Billy the Liquor Guy, and it was great. I couldn't wait to get up in the morning, see what deals I can do and different things without, and the hardest part, in fact, another one was Sunshine, who's a madam who had lookalikes who I was buying cocaine from. And it's in the book that it was hard. We became good friends. And in fact, she saved our lives twice by telling us the Albanians are going to come in and kill you, or the Africans are going to come in and rob us. Because we're set up like in a warehouse, just like you see on TV. They come in, we do our deals, but we had a heads up they were going to try to kill us and rob us. And she gave us a heads up. And so, I got to be very close with her. And in fact, and then one day she shows up because I'm trying to buy a lot more than 8 balls. So I was going to buy a half a kilo, not like a kilo, they say in the book. That's about the only thing that's not true. Sorry, publisher. What can I tell you? So anyways, she shows up with these 2 lookalikes. I mean, they are gorgeous. And I go, what's up with the broads? She goes, well, listen, I can't sell you the half a kilo unless you fuck one of my girls. And one looks like J-Lo, the other one looks like Mariah Carey. So
you got to do what you got.
Steve, if there wasn't so many cameras in the warehouse, but there was, I knew, again, Billy the Liquor Guy, there was not a camera in the bathroom, which is illegal. Can't do it. So I end up going in there, taking her in there, and allegedly, I said, hey, you got a little bump, something. And I said, so I made her turn around, and I made her, I made like I did a line of coke off her ass. But that went well, because I did buy the half a kilo, but I got in a lot of trouble for that. By even my boss, Tom Stan, and Paul Rossi, who was the deputy director, I had to go to their office. In fact, Jeff, who was in the book, he looked at me and just goes, "You fucked up." He said, "You really fucked up now." I go, "What? I didn't fuck the broad." I said, he goes, "Listen, she told you got to fuck somebody for the half a kilo. You take her in the bathroom and you come out and you bought the half a kilo. Everyone knows you. What are they going to think, Billy?" I said, "Well," he goes, "Here." Shows me the keys to the Batmobile. We had a car that just was souped up. I mean, in Virginia, I was in New York and 100 miles an hour plus, so I got to New York pretty quick. I walk into the big office and Paul Rossi, the director's, "You are the stupidest motherfucker." He's yelling at me, pulling his hair out. He goes, "I got a $10,000 weave here. Every time you hear your fucking name, I'm going to want to pull my hair out." And I said, "Listen, guys, I'm telling you, I didn't fuck her." He said, "I know you." He said, "Don't even bullshit me." Then there was director, assistant director, a couple of attorneys. I just looked them all in the eye and I point my finger at their face and I go, "I did not have sexual relations with the women."
You were like,
Bill Clinton all over again. Anyways,
So you lied.
I like, no. So anyways, all it ended up was he goes, I said, listen, I did the line of, I did the line of coke. He goes, "Well, are you that fucking stupid?" I said, "Well, I looked like I did it." He goes, so I said, "Write something up." So I wrote that down. Well, I allegedly appeared to do a line of coke off her ass. And he goes, "You are a moron." He rips it up. Now, this is a guy that's a boss. And he writes something down. And he's there about a minute. He goes, "To protect the integrity of the operation and the officers involved, CI 143 exposes genitalia area." So maybe I go, "You've done this before." He said, "Listen, when you get shot, because you are going to get shot, because you do push the envelope." He said, "You're the best undercover I've ever seen or even worked with or heard about." He said, "But on your tombstone, I'm going to put heart of gold, crazy as a bed bug, and a set of brass balls." I go, "I like that. Can we use that?" And he just goes, "Get the fuck out of here." So
Let me ask you a question. When you buy a half a kilo of cocaine, do you only turn in a quarter kilo of cocaine and you keep the quarter kilo of cocaine for yourself?
Well, I heard about that shit. I did hear about that shit stuff happening. But in fact, they
It's called branching out. I mean, I would figure. I
yeah,
mean,
we got money.
Right.
because
I would
some of
that.
one of my last details I done, there was 1.3 million missing. And of course, who do they blame?
Yeah.
The Italian.
Right. Exactly.
I said, well, anyways, I just said, listen, I have no knowledge of that incident at this time. But
I have no knowledge.
I got called to internal affairs. And thank God some of them are the stupidest bastards you ever see, like you see in the movies, okay? I said, "Guys, I'm here," because they were starting to call my guys in one by one. Who got $500 from his mother that he put in cash? So these guys think they think they cracked the case. So I flew up from Florida and I went to the Inspector General's office. And again, I had jams on it. I had purple jams, flip-flops, and a t-shirt. And I go, "Guys, why would you come after us?" They said, "The bad guys said you took it." "Oh, you mean the terrorists or the guys that
Who you believe in, right?
So I was a little pissed. I've been shot at. I had a gun pointed in my head. And I said, "You guys are the fucking worst. Seriously." I said, "Listen, and I go just like this. But I go, listen, I'm going to tell you everything you want to know. But here's the deal." I look at him. I go, "I'm leaving. I got a plane at 5:00 out of Albany to fly back down to Naples, Florida. So I'm going down there to buy 2 condos cash. So let's get this done." Guys, they started writing this shit down. I said, "You are the dumbest bastards I ever met." Well, when they're that stupid, again, everyone screw up and have anybody that stupid cheat for anything. But there was money missing from when you're talking millions of dollars. And again, nothing, it up the chain. A lot of it
Absolutely.
appears.
It's going to happen.
It does.
It's too tempting.
No,
It's going to happen.
I'm driving around with $700,000 in a Ryder truck, and I've got to bring it back. And, you look at it, but you say, no, not to be honest, it was not enough. I got asked a couple of times. You put a crooked number in front of 6 zeros, then you're talking something different.
Yeah. Listen, I'm proud of you because
I have a question. I have an important question. I've always wanted LSD. Were you ever around for LSD?
I'm sorry.
He wants to know if you were ever on any acid or LSD. That is his fantasy, his dream to do some acid or LSD.
It was.
Yep.
Mr. Someone in my audience here is raising their hand. I partake not. I've been involved in some. I grew up in the 60s and 70s, so to say I'm not familiar with some of that stuff. I mean, that's when. But you knew what you were getting then. You know, it was a lot different. And again, I wouldn't. I hope I don't advise anybody to do it. But no, to answer your question directly, I have never tried LSD.
Bad.
No, you disappointed, Steve. I'm sorry about that.
Well,
Steve, you sound like you're in the middle of an ocean.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I will tell you the truth once we end this. No.
So,
Hey, what was the most dangerous situation you were ever in? Like situation where you thought, like, am I getting out of this at all?
I had one. I was in the biker bar, and we had a code word for whatever reason. I don't know. You always have code word where I had a few agents outside. Even though a couple nights when it was 3, 4 in the morning, I'm doing shots with the bikers. I felt like come out and here's these guys in the car. You know, they're my backup. One other time I was in the biker bar and we had a code word of black smoke, meaning I need help. Why I ever came up with that, I do not know. You know, but anyways, we're watching the movie Reindeer Games, which is with Ben Affleck, where he impersonates another crook. And the other one, the real bad guys go, and I'm going, I know it's coming up because I go, it's a movie. I got my little recorder. I got my wire on it. It's in my button. I got a button cam on. I go, it's a movie, guys. It's a movie. I go, it's a movie, guys. It's a movie, not knowing. And it comes to the part where they go, I told you he's a cop. I go, I told you he's not who he was. Kill him. So I'm going, oh, fuck. I'm waiting for these guys. I'm looking for a clean spot in the floor where I can dive down. But, that didn't happen. But that worked out where they were just getting out of the truck. And one of the guys goes, fuck. He goes, it's from a movie. But a couple of guys wanted to come in. Anyways, long story short, I always say that. I was making a small drug buy. I was not making the drug buy. I was checking out one of our CIs who had fucked us a couple of times. He was just, he was making his own deals. And I helped his ass. I was getting the shit beat out of him in Brooklyn somewhere. So I said, if it ever happens again, I'm not going out. Anyways, same thing goes down. For whatever reason, I'm near, I'm on Broadway and Flatbush Ave, I'm sorry. And I'm going, fuck. I put my Dunkin' Donuts coffee down. I get out. I walk up to him and say, what the fuck? Next thing you know, I got a gun pointed in the back of my head. That clicked. But again, it happened so quick. I didn't know what happened. But obviously I was very lucky because the gun did click. But the other guy, I don't know if I could.
Yeah, put it right up there. This is one of the 2 books.
Yeah.
That are published right now. Actually telling the stories.
Yeah.
Of what you're recounting right now on the show.
And the guy in the black hoodie who looks like a hood, when they could ever look it out, check it out. He's crazy. I don't know if this one shows. Anyways, he's crazier than a bastard.
But my question,
he chased the guy down the street. I didn't.
I just asked because it seems like it was like luxury. It seems like it was like intensity. You're nervous. Was there any chance that you could cross over in that life?
Well, yeah. Again, I said I became Billy the Liquor Guy, but there were so many incidents. Like another time in the bike, it changes in a second. And that's what you could work for weeks, months at a time, but then something always comes up. Someone accuses you. But actually, when I got accused, I was in a biker bar again, and you meet new guys, and some of the bosses I was working with, not my good bosses, the people in between said, hey, you gotta wear a wire. I never wore a wire the first time I met somebody to make a drug deal. Technically, you're supposed to, but I said I can make other drug deals. But sure enough, I go down to biker bar. I'm a pretty big husky guy, and I got a fucking cut off flannel shirt on, and then he starts doing this. I said, it's all me. He said, well, so I said, okay. I go, hey. I said, why don't you go fuck yourself? So I take my shirt off because I don't have a wire on. And I go, your turn. He goes, what do you mean? I go, I don't fucking know you. Take your fucking shirt off. Why won't you take your shirt off? So I turned it around, but no, there was dangerous situations. Another time where the biggest biker I ever saw wanted to beat the balls off me. He was the dumbest bastard I ever met, but he's the one guy that directly accused me of being a cop. But thank God, luck of the draw, he was all pissed off, but the head of the biker bar, protected me because I was making money. In fact, he interceded from the guy beating the shit out of me. And the guy goes, why you standing up for me? He goes, because he makes me money. You robbed for me. So who do you think I'm going to protect? But he ended up, as they say, he got a terrible bike accident 2 weeks later. And I don't know where, he never showed up again. So,
Steve, this is money line. So I want to put a sports question out here.
It's not money line.
Oh, this isn't money line. Oh,
No.
I apologize.
The liquor guys, no money line.
Oh, it's a special. Well, I'm going to ask it to him anyway. I'm going to ask it to him anyways. Right now, the question. So you have a Raiders sweatshirt or pullover on, right? So your Raiders are your team, right?
Yeah.
So
Shave points or something?
I'm sorry. The shave points? No. My question has to do with the '70s Oakland Raiders. Do you think there was a lot of alcohol and drugs that could have been apprehended by your department back then in the '70s?
Oh, I've read all the books, and I was a big Raider fan since the mid-'60s. So yes, I mean that's the reason and everyone asks, how the hell did you become a Raider fan? Well, you guys would understand, but back in the '60s, there was only 2 TV channels, WKTV and whatever the other one was, and they had the Raiders on. But you could be a sports betting line because I was a degenerate gambler where I played that part, and I had to go teach. Now I had to go teach it to some law enforcement agencies because I was a bookie also, and sometimes, but I had to go to the State Police Academy and teach the troopers about how to listen on the wire and stuff, what's going on. And they said, well, I don't understand. What is the VIG?
Yeah, right. Right. What do you get out of it? Yeah.
I go, okay. And I tried, but I said, listen, if you bet, you got to bet $11 to win 10. They go, why would you do that? I go, well, if you're calling it into a bookie, you have what you call a tab or a ticket. And he goes, but I don't understand. Why would you pay more money to win less money?
Yeah.
So that's what I had to deal with.
Right. I understand.
Yep.
Now, the only thing I was kind of disappointed about is, I mean, you're in this thing, you're this big guy. You probably could have gotten laid whenever you want. Like, pussy could have been lying all over you. And you didn't get to take advantage.
Well, I met a lookalike. They looked like Catherine Zeta-Jones. I met them. I just talked to them. And it was at a strip club where I was selling liquor. So but again, I was at the time I was a faithful man and still continue to be faithful to, but you're killing me. You're killing me.
Well, Steve comes from a life of no.
I would be. Oh God!
Steve comes from a life of heavy homosexuality. So the problem is he can't envision and see how women. He doesn't understand how.
A life of lacking.
Believe it or not,
I
I was a jock and a nerd in high school, but no, there was numerous opportunities. But tell you the truth, I was on a mission once the tower went down. As much as my had numerous sexual offers I was able to refuse all of them.
Okay. Well, you're gonna go to heaven.
No.
Steve also wants to know is prison life the absolute dream that he thinks it is? Like it's a
yes, you had said
like it would be his fantasy would be in prison.
In fact,
well, I'm gonna get an exit right on my ass.
And would he be able to wear a long hair wig all the time, 24/7?
Hey, listen, I'm not breaking your balls. Why I was up on the wire, and thank God I know you're doing good. But for the artificial leg you do have, I hope we had on the wire this one guy. You listen to the funniest things on a fucking wire, especially at 3:00 in the morning. One person, when we had a big snowstorm years ago, it was the guy wanted to go to the state of Las Vegas, so he called the bus company, and then he called a taxi to how much it would go. But more importantly, there was a prostitute in the car with this guy who was trying to work out a deal, and she had a fake blade. Okay, so he wanted to get something done. She performed the act, and then he didn't pay her. She took the leg off and beat the shit out of him right in the back of the car. And we're listening to all this. You can't make this shit up. It was like, I mean, we'd have the top 5 for a couple months of surveillance or Moyer. So, but no, I enjoyed it. But the reason under too long is not only to become Billy the Liquor Guy, but after 10, 11 years, you know, it really affects you on the edge. Because you are on the edge of it.
PTSD from it, a lot of issues, because you're
Yes,
really
yes.
a person. You have another person and get the character
Yeah.
to do the job right.
Oh, I know. I had in fact, I would come home. Why you bother coming home? You sleep on the couch for 2 days, to 3 days, the phone rings, you're gone. I said, that's my life. In fact, I did. Go ahead.
What made you really want to write the book?
I don't know.
Say that again, Steve.
What made you want to write the book?
What made you want to write the book?
Actually, I went from chasing bad guys in Tunisia, Africa. And 3 months after I retired, there was a lot of missing money. There was millions.
There's bad guys.
There's always missing money, Bill. We know this. We've seen it recently in this government's accounting books. There's missing money all over the place. So
Yes, good countries and bad.
a couple $100 billion here or there. This country doesn't even feel it.
No, I know, and it's a shame, but we will save that for another day. But I'm sorry, I forgot the question.
Yeah, I forgot the question too, Steve. What was the question?
Writing.
No, why did you write the book?
Because I finally went to see a psychiatrist. I went from chasing bad guys in Tunisia 3 months after I retired. I didn't get off my couch for a year and a half. I mean, I just was a mess.
What was it? Explain the bad guys in Tunisia. What is that all about?
Well, we actually had an informant that was very good for us. And again, the FBI, he was an Arab, you know, but once we flipped him, and they only did, because Arabs won't deal with Arabs. So he was our Arab. He was paid money. He wasn't, so we, you know, but he got us a lot of criminals, but he got made. So in fact, someone in the agency snuck him out of the office, and they put him on a plane to go to Tunisia because he had family there. Now, I don't know. I heard the guy was a big Raider fan. I heard a lot of stories about that shit. You know what I'm saying? Because if I heard my boss, Tom, go, hey, listen, I need you to take, I'll say his name in the book is Saeed, because you got to take him in the airport, because the feds were downstairs. They were going to take him because they were going to throw him back in the undercover world. And we said, that ain't going to happen. So anyways, I went down to see him to see how he's doing, and also see if he would come back, because all the other guys have been deported and were sent wherever, Gitmo or El Salvador. I don't know. In our times, it was different because they got shit happened. But I was very bad, and I finally went to see a psychiatrist, and he goes, so Billy, tell me what's wrong. And I said, listen, I'm fucked up. I said, I was a law enforcement. I was involved in fatality. I've had guns pointed at me. I've been in shootouts. And I said, but I was at 9/11. And I said, he pulls out of bed. What do you need? I said, here's a guy prescribing good drugs for me.
Right.
But anyways, he said that they weren't kicking in at first. Little did I know that you shouldn't take more than you're supposed to.
Popping like candy, huh? Yeah, they're sweet. They probably had a little sugar in them.
I said, I can't wake up. He goes, you're lucky you did. But anyways, he goes, why don't you write a journal? So I said, okay. So after the third session where I got the journal, he goes, this is a book. You know, he said, you've lived more danger in 10 lifetimes than most people. You live more danger than people can in 10 lifetimes. You know, so he said, so actually eventually came around, and the journal became my therapy. And my therapy that I was writing, I waited my family at the time to go to bed, and about 2:00 in the morning, because I didn't sleep much. Some of the pills were uppers. Right?
Yes, it keeps you going.
So I think Steve would know, you know.
Absolutely.
So
He's mixed everything. He's a genetic mess right now.
Yeah. But anyways, he goes, so next thing I know, I asked my niece, who was my ghostwriter for this first book, because I can be, English is not my forte. You know, in fact, I'm not a writer. I just told the story.
You have a very eloquent way of putting the English language. I mean, I think it's straightforward.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So he goes, oh, so My niece sits me down and she goes, "We're going to write a book." I said, "Hey, how?" Because she's a journalist. In fact, I'm proud to say she's on the school board in Utica. She's a very intelligent lady. She got me, even from my niece. She got me because she goes, "We're going to write a book, but we're going to call it Where in the World is Uncle Bill?" You know, because for 10 years I was never around.
Gone.
And I used to say to piss my wife off too. When people ask me, I said, "Well, I was away for 10 to 20." She used to hate that because I did 10 years undercover and another 10 with the PTSD. Anyways, when I looked at her, I said, "Hon, that's good, but let me tell you what I did." Within 5 minutes, she was like, so we changed it to Under Too Long, and it went viral. In fact, I was out in Vegas. I won a first prize in true crimes, and from that, I just got more famous. You know, in fact, I told the people, there was all these authors, all these uppity people. I go, "Listen, I'm not going to piss you people off," because there were some nice people. There were cops that wrote the real stories.
Sure.
Were wannabes talking. So
Yeah.
I said, "Listen, I don't want to really piss you off because I'm not a writer." You know, I said, "But when I leave here, I'm flying to Chicago to go see my publisher. to write my second book. And once that's published, I would have written more books than I've ever read in my whole life."
Right.
So I'm
Right.
But I try to, but I do levity, but the pills, the therapy, and writing the books continue to be my therapy. And again, the only reason I wrote the second book is because people in the government, which were talking about defunding the police. So obviously someone I put on the line for 10 years undercover, not counting the other 20, it kind of pissed me off.
Well, they want to defund because they want a kinder, gentler police.
And that works. And like I said, when I got called into internal affairs, because when we had the shootout with the applicants, which Sunshine gave us aware of, and we were aware it was going to happen. So I was fortunate because even though, I was just a guy, I was just a worker bee in the warehouse until I start making other deals with people on the side that the agency knew about.
Sure.
Let me rephrase that. Anyways, I put a gun in the back of his head and said I used a few ethnic slurs,
Mhm.
Because ethnic, yeah, that word is ethnic, yeah. But anyways, I told about where I was going to put a gun. I was going to blow his fucking brains out, and some other things might have came out.
Sure did.
I got called to internal affairs for using improper language.
Right.
During a,
Imagine that.
and my thank God for my boss.
Well, if it was a shootout with Africans, basically what they would want you to do is to stop for a second, walk out, and bring a counselor with you,
Yes.
and counsel the Africans on how the shootout and would be at a disadvantage for them,
Yes.
and how surrendering to the law authorities and going to prison for 30 years would be more beneficial.
Right. Restorative
Well, you
justice.
might have to DEI it and just let them shoot at you first, and then you
Yeah,
take a
yeah.
shot.
Right, take a bullet first so that it doesn't look so bad. Right, you can't. Yeah.
All I'm going to say is I got one. First of all, my boss came with me, and he's great. He said, "So, how many years you guys on the street?" As soon as they didn't answer, he said, "Now I got you." He goes, "Listen, how the fuck are you going to judge him? You never leave your office. And what do you think he should have said?" He said, "Quote, what do you think would happen if he said, or I'd like to have you guys say this, sir, would you mind lowering that shotgun?"
Yeah, please, just a little.
But I said, "I'd put a fucking cap in your black ass, or I could change even a little." And I said, I can't wait.
At the time when there are weapons drawn, all language is fair game.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I do. All
And but
language, drugs, all fair game. I don't think
Because,
there's trouble for any of that.
well, you would know, Steve. I mean,
Right.
a couple times.
Usually they have to draw guns on you when they perform oral sex, but I mean, it is what it is, Steve.
But
Yeah, I
seriously,
mean, whatever. No.
He's like, no need for the guns.
No need for the guns, please. Bring a cake.
I gotta find that video because
It's friendly atmosphere here. Friendly atmosphere.
I'm threatening to kill everybody. You know what I'm saying?
Right, you gotta.
But you know what? We never gave up that we were cops. They thought we were just crazy ass bad guys. And of course, the next time they came down, they got arrested for transporting stuff across state lines. We're in Virginia. Once they went to Maryland, they got taken down by ATF guys
Sure.
from Alabama
Yeah.
and North Carolina.
No kidding, that's
And,
Earl.
yeah, and it was in Arkansas,
Mm,
and there was definitely some.
There's some racial tension. Some racial tension.
I'm sorry.
How long have I
How long have you been retired?
I've been retired 15 years.
Oh,
So,
okay.
but for a while,
job, so I just wanted to see if you could get me.
Well, you know what? You have to realize right now. But pull the books out right now. I'm just going to flash these really quick. So this one here, right here. So Under Too Long. Okay.
Yeah.
And now, is this the one that? I mean, we're looking at something that's going to go to cinema.
Yeah.
It could be cinema. It could actually be a series. So you're looking at something that has the makings of any good undercover police story movie, but that could be made into a series that would have a lot of interest because the stories are not bullshit.
Yeah,
That's the difference. You can make up, and I'm sure if the movie is being made, Billy would be an advisor on the movie, and he wouldn't want bullshit. So you're probably seeing something that's true to heart.
But I'm looking for a couple guys to be assistants to interview professional women. Would you guys be interested in doing anything like that?
I would do the women. Steve would like to interview the men. That's what I would focus on.
Off the girl's ass. I want to be your
right. No, what I want, Billy, is if a movie or a series, if a movie or a series ever comes out, I just want to be one of the gang members, guys out there who just gets whacked right in the beginning. I just want a 5-second appearance. Maybe I get some royalties down the end. Maybe whatever it is. That's all. I just want to.
They film here. I got a list of guys. You guys are great. In fact, I think I got a part for Steve, but you're going to take over Buckley's part because Buckley said the part only he's going to get in the movie. He's going to be the gay lover of the Arab terrorists. That's the part I got from Buckley.
Well, so Steve is the Arab terrorist because he is Arab, and Buckley is the gay lover. So I mean, we have the plot line right here for at least one episode of the series, I think.
Oh, and yeah. But anyways, Buckley, he's been good. But yeah, the movie, I was at the right place, right time, and just like you guys said. I got a hold of some producers who I was just a freaky thing where his mom was talking to me about it. I didn't know it was his mom. I was somewhere in Tennessee or somewhere. I was at one of my little book signings, and she wanted to know about everything about the guy who had PTSD. So I took my time with her, and I did. I had a little booth. I shut that down. We talked and stuff, and then a week later, I get a fucking Gmail from some William Morris agency with a letterhead or whatever it is, and I'm going, oh, this guy, one of my guys breaking my balls. I go, they ain't that smart to figure this out. Anyways, he goes, my mom told me about your book. She read it. She loved it. She sent it to me. And he goes, Billy, I'm an executive producer in Hollywood. I couldn't put it fucking down. And he said exactly what you said. They get a lot of shit that goes on, but this is real. It's from someone who was fortunate enough to do it and fortunate enough to survive. But these guys are there. I said Minute Arrange production company, and it's all on my Facebook. Who it is, how I got the deal. It's in progress, or it's being an initial stage.
Right.
It's a great.
Well, Billy, listen, I wanted to thank you so much for coming out here and doing this interview.
It was incredible. We heard some amazing stories. I've learned
so much about you, and I want to learn more.
And
but you're dead.
And I still, I'll do the blow.
Okay. Well, your dad again. Your dad did my movie contract, but he did my attorney. Yeah. And he said you had a podcast, and then we got together. But I asked.
Yes, we'll definitely have you again. And we don't have difficulties, and we'll talk more. And go more into the movie situation. And between Frank, Dave, and myself, they know enough people to get you connected.
All right.
Get rolling.
I will have a ball with it.
I make sure I cut out everything of when you're talking from the ocean you're in. So.
Oh, thank you. You guys are the best. I'll tell you, because I usually.
It's like listening to the movie Crimson Tide in the sub. Please proceed. Yes. Dive.
That's all right. I got Dave Warner. Dave Warner's the best editor in the world. Dave will take care of it.
You were right.
That'd be awesome.
This was fun because I wasn't getting. The undercover was great, but when I did this shit, in fact, when I did my audio book, they wanted me to do it because they got a few people from Hollywood, but then the editor called me. He says, "No, we tried it. We want you to do it because you're the real deal. Plus, you sound like you just stepped out of set of drums." But again, I got nervous of doing but I did not know it was going to be done so professionally, like in a big studio.
Right.
Oh, fuck. I thought I was going to have to read the book, which I've wrote it, but I've never read it from cover to cover. So people are amazed at it.
Well, you don't need to read it. That was your life. You kind of know it cover to cover.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. No, it's a great thing, man. I wish you luck. I hope something comes about. I'd love to see local people have success. I mean, look at how you had to basically put your life on the line for 10 years to do a podcast. I mean, congratulations.
And I didn't know that I didn't know the sound was going to be so perfect.
Yeah, it's crystal clear on 3 of the 4 ends.
I brought my hearing aid. I guess I didn't need.
You need to turn it up. You're right there.
But I thank you guys. It was fun.
All right. Well,
No,
for
great.
Billy the Liquor Guy, we appreciate your time. We love your book. For the voice of reason himself, Frank Cristiano, and Coach Schumann, he's the man who did not fall asleep. He hasn't fallen asleep yet, even though he's moved there. This has been our special on Billy the Liquor Guy and his book, In Too Deep. Just
Yes.
like I'm going to go too deep on somebody. I can't wait for it. And then try
I've been in-
When life gives you oranges, blow a couple lines.
So,
I thought I was in some big drug dealer's home.
I know.
The gentleman, this home and the one I'm looking at behind me.
beautiful. Beautiful.
Oh,
We'll do
guys.
that next too. Next time
All
we
right.
do the podcast at Frank's, we're gonna have mountains of drugs, ecstasy.
Yep.
All right, guys.
I told you, Dave, that background of the piano is solid.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get it all.
That's it.
But Billy, just so
I can bring
you
some
know,
woman that will dance on that piano. I can guarantee you.
As long as she's bent over and she has the bump on her ass, then we're good.
so Billy, just remember, when life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Take 2 oranges and throw them back in life.
Thank you, buddy.